When the day lets go. There is a special time of day when the world begins to slow down, when the noise of the day gradually fades, as if someone invisible is slowly, ever so slowly, turning down the volume of reality. In these moments, between the bustle of the day and the peace of the night, we are given a rare gift, the opportunity to look within ourselves. Imagine your mind as a silent theater at the end of an evening performance. The lights slowly dim, the audience disperses, but the actors still remain on stage, your thoughts. They continue to speak, move, play their parts, even after the performance is long over. It is this theater, these tireless actors, that we will talk about today. Slowly, gently, as if we were laying each word on a soft pillow of understanding. Cognitive behavioral therapy. These words may sound cold, scientific, detached, but behind them lies something surprisingly human, the art of observing your thoughts as if you were watching clouds in the summer sky. They come, they go, they change shape, and you are not the cloud. You are the sky in which they float. In the mid-20th century, a psychologist named Beck made a simple yet revolutionary discovery. He observed that between an event in our lives and how we feel, there's always an invisible mediator, thought. It's not reality itself that makes us happy or unhappy. It's our interpretation of reality, our internal commentary on what's happening that creates our emotions. It's as if a translator stands between the world and our hearts, sometimes translating inaccurately, adding something of their own, distorting the meaning.
Today, we will journey through this inner landscape, slowly, carefully, with the curiosity of an explorer and the tenderness of a friend. We will learn how this amazing mechanism of thought works, how it sometimes malfunctions, and most importantly, how we can learn to cooperate with it rather than fight it. Make yourself comfortable. Allow your breathing to deepen, to slow down. Imagine that each inhalation brings curiosity, and each exhalation carries away haste. We are in no hurry. Time moves differently here, measuredly, like waves on the shore, like the swaying of branches in a gentle breeze. Our journey begins.
Theater of the mind. A grand performance is unfolding in your head right now. Actors enter the stage one after another, deliver their lines, and disappear backstage. Some appear again and again, repeating the same words, as if stuck in an endless repetition of their roles. These actors are your thoughts, and this theater runs 7 days a week. Cognitive behavioral therapy invites us to become not just spectators of this performance, but attentive, mindful observers, directors of our own internal theater. This doesn't mean controlling every thought. That would be exhausting and impossible. It means learning to notice what thoughts come to mind, what roles they play, and how they influence what we feel and do. Imagine it's early morning. You wake up, and before you've even opened your eyes, the first actor has already rushed onto the stage of your mind. Perhaps they say, "This day again," or "I'm so tired," or perhaps, "I wonder what's going to happen today." These first thoughts, the actors of the morning shift, set the tone for the entire day, like musicians tuning their instruments before a concert. In psychology, such thoughts are called automatic. They appear on their own, without our conscious effort, quickly and habitually, like a reflex. You don't decide to think them, they just come. It's like the mind's breath. Most of the time, we don't even notice them. They whisper their messages so quietly, so habitually, that we mistake them for reality itself, not an interpretation of reality. But here's the magic of cognitive behavioral therapy. When we begin to notice these actors, when we turn on the inner light in the audience and see who's on stage and what they're saying, we have a choice. We can ask, is what you're saying true? How do you know that? Maybe there's another way to look at this situation.
And when this understanding begins to take root deep in the mind, something amazing happens. Thoughts don't disappear, they continue to come and go, but they lose their absolute power over us. We stop believing every actor on stage. We begin to discern, is this the truth? Is this a half-truth? Is this an old, familiar role this actor has been playing for 20 years? Let this understanding slowly sink into your consciousness. Like a grain of sand sinks to the bottom of a river. You are not your thoughts. You are the space in which they arise, a boundless, calm, ever-present space.
Shadows of consciousness, cognitive distortions. In the theater of our minds, there's a special troupe of actors. They appeared long ago, perhaps even when we were children, and they play their roles so convincingly that we accept their words as the pure truth. These actors are masters of distortion. They take reality and filter it through special lenses, changing the shape, color, and size of what's happening. In cognitive behavioral therapy, these are called cognitive distortions. But let's get to know them better, learn their stories, and understand why they act the way they do. Black and white thinking is an actor who knows no halftones. For him, only day or night. Success or utter failure, love or hate exist. He steps onto the stage and says convincingly, "If I haven't done it perfectly," and the world truly seemed simpler. Mom was either there or gone, either praised or scolded. But the reality of the adult world is woven from thousands of shades of gray, from a multitude of possibilities between extremes. Imagine a sunset. Is it only black and white? There's scarlet, gold, pink, lavender, all blending into one another in an endless dance of colors. When this actor takes the stage, try gently asking him, what's between these two extremes? What other options are there? And perhaps you'll see how the rigid boundaries begin to blur, opening up space for a softer, more realistic view of things.
Catastrophizing is an actor-playwright, a specialist in horrific endings. They take a small problem and inflate it into a cosmic tragedy. I'm late for a meeting. That means I'll get fired. If I get fired, I won't be able to pay the rent. I'll end up on the street. My life is ruined. This actor emerges from our ancient brain, from the part responsible for survival. Thousands of years ago, the ability to imagine the worst and prepare for it saved lives. But now, in the relative safety of the modern world, this talent often works against us, creating anxiety out of nowhere. When catastrophizing enters your consciousness, try asking gently, without judgment, how likely is this scenario really? Which is more realistic? You'll often find that between minor problem and disaster, there are many more likely outcomes. Mind reading is an amazing actor who claims to know exactly what other people are thinking. She looked at me strangely. She definitely thinks I'm stupid. He didn't reply to my text. He hates me. This actor tries to protect us by predicting others' reactions so we can prepare. But the problem is that their predictions are almost always tinged by our own fears and insecurities. We attribute to others the thoughts we fear most.
The reality is this: we're not mind readers. We can't see into someone else's head. People are complex, multifaceted creatures, and their actions are often motivated by reasons that have nothing to do with us. Perhaps she was minding her own business. Perhaps he was simply busy. The world doesn't revolve around us alone, and that's liberating. It means we're not as constantly the center of attention as we think.
Personalization is an actor who takes responsibility for everything that happens around them. A colleague comes to work in a bad mood. I must have done something wrong. An awkward silence ensues at a family dinner. I should have filled it. It's my fault for the discomfort. This actor carries the weight of the world on their shoulders. They sincerely believe they are responsible for the moods, feelings, and reactions of others. But the truth is, everyone has their own inner life, their own invisible battles, their own complexities that have nothing to do with us. When personalization comes into play, try asking, what other factors could have influenced this situation? How much of this do I really control? More often than not, you'll discover that your real sphere of influence is much smaller than you thought, and that's good news. It means you can lay down a burden that was never yours.
Filtering is like an actor with a special magnifying glass. It sees only the negative aspects of a situation, filtering out everything positive. The day went well. An interesting project, a pleasant conversation with a friend, a delicious dinner, a beautiful sunset. But filtering notices only one thing, that single critical remark someone made, and the entire day is colored by that single negative moment, as if a single drop of black paint had fallen into a glass of clear water. This actor is shaped by our evolutionary heritage. The brain is designed to pay more attention to threats and problems. This helped us survive. But in the modern world, where most threats don't pose a real threat to life, this tendency creates a distorted picture of reality, in which good seems to be non-existent. The practice here is simple, but it requires patience. When you notice filtering has entered the picture, intentionally and gently draw your attention to other details. Yes, that happened. What else happened today? Without denying the negative, expand the picture to see it as a whole, with all the colors, not just one.
The shoulder is perhaps the strictest actor in the troupe. He carries with him a long list of rules about how the world should be, how people should behave, and how he himself should be. I must always be productive. People should be fair. Life should be easy. This actor creates a gap between what is and what he believes should be, and in this gap, suffering is born. Albert Ellis, a psychologist who worked alongside Beck, called such thoughts demands. He observed that when we replace should with would be nice if, emotional tension magically decreases. The difference between I should do this perfectly and would be nice if I did this well may seem insignificant, but emotionally, it's a chasm. The former creates pressure, shame, and fear. The latter leaves room for humanity, for mistakes, for learning. Try to catch this actor on stage. Hear the word should, and gently, without forcing yourself, replace it with I prefer, I would like, it would be nice. Feel how the quality of this thought changes, how it becomes softer, how breathing becomes a little easier.
Emotional reasoning is the actor-philosopher who asserts, I feel it, therefore it's true. I'm anxious, therefore there's real danger. I feel like a loser, therefore I am one. He confuses internal reality with external reality. But emotions are not facts. They are important, they carry information, they need to be listened to, but they are not the objective truth about the world. You can feel fear and still be safe. You can feel unloved and still be surrounded by love. Emotions are reactions of our nervous system, often based on past experiences and automatic thoughts. They are real as experiences, but not always accurate as information about reality. When this actor appears, try telling yourself, I feel this, and it's a real feeling. But what do the facts say? What does reality say beyond my emotional state? This doesn't mean ignoring emotions. It means not allowing them to be your only source of information about the world.
All these actors, all these cognitive distortions, they're not the enemy. They were trying to protect us, each in their own way. They played their roles for so long that they forgot they were just roles. Cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't suggest kicking them out of the theater. It suggests learning to recognize them, understand their patterns, and gently, with self-compassion, create alternative interpretations of reality. It's as if new actors are appearing in Beer, with more balanced, more realistic lines, and gradually, very gradually, the performance changes.
Each of us has a story about ourselves that we tell ourselves over and over again. This story has been shaped over the years, from thousands of small moments, words we heard in childhood, experiences of success and failure, comparisons with others, societal messages about what we should be like. And often, this story about ourselves becomes a prison, limiting who we can become. Cognitive behavioral therapy suggests exploring this story with the curiosity of a scientist and the kindness of a friend. Where does this self-belief come from? What evidence is it based on? What speaks for it? What speaks against it? This doesn't mean creating an unrealistically positive self-image. It means developing a balanced, honest, and compassionate perspective. Imagine your best friend made the same mistake you did. What would you say to them? Chances are you'd be kind, understanding, and supportive. You'd remind them of their strengths, that one mistake doesn't define them. This is the stance cognitive behavioral therapy invites us to take toward ourselves. A different reflection begins to appear in the mirror. Not perfect, but real. A person with weaknesses and strengths, with past mistakes and present opportunities. Not a frozen statue of good or bad, but a living, changing, learning being. The second mirror, a view of the world. Look in the second mirror. What kind of world do you see there? For one person, the world is mostly a safe place, full of opportunities and friendly people. For another, it's a dangerous territory where you need to be constantly on guard, where people are mostly selfish and opportunities are out of reach. This isn't objective reality, it's an interpretation. Two people can walk down the same street and see completely different worlds. One notices smiling people, blossoming trees, interesting storefronts. The other notices trash on the sidewalk, frowning faces in the crowd, problems and injustice. Both films contain elements of truth. The world is truly complex and multifaceted. It contains beauty and problems, both kind people and those who cause pain. But our focus, our personal filter, determines the world we experience day after day. Cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't suggest putting on rose-colored glasses and ignoring problems. It encourages learning to see the bigger picture. If your mirror only reveals the dark aspects of reality, therapy invites you to expand your perspective. Yes, this exists. What else exists? What other aspects of this situation can I see?
It's like adjusting the focus of a camera. You can focus on a spot on the wall and make it the center of the entire photograph. Or you can zoom out and see the entire room, where that spot is just a tiny detail in the overall picture. Both photographs are technically accurate, but one gives a more complete, more balanced view of reality. Slowly, through practice, the mirror clears. The world becomes not black and white, but colorful, not unequivocally good or bad, but complex, multi-layered, full of nuances. And this is a more honest reflection of reality. The third mirror, the image of the future. Look into the third mirror. What do you see there, in the fog of time that hasn't yet arrived? For someone depressed, this mirror often reveals an endless corridor of gray days, where nothing changes, where there's no hope for improvement. It will always be like this, the voice whispers. Nothing will change. I'll never get better.
This is perhaps the most cruel distortion of all, because it takes away what makes a person able to endure today's difficulties, hope for a better tomorrow. Without this hope, motivation evaporates. Why try if nothing will change anyway? But the future isn't a fixed reality. It's probabilities, possibilities, potentials. No one knows what will happen tomorrow, next month, next year. Research in cognitive behavioral therapy shows again and again, people change, situations evolve. What seems eternal today often turns out to be temporary. When the mirror of the future is clouded by pessimism, therapy offers a series of gentle questions. How do I know it will be this way? Have there been moments in my life when a bad time ended? What if the future holds possibilities I can't foresee now? This isn't naive optimism.
It's a realistic openness to uncertainty, an acknowledgement that the future is inherently unknown and therefore may contain both challenges and opportunities.
Imagine someone a century ago trying to predict today. They would have been wrong on most details. We too are wrong when we try to predict our future with 100% certainty, especially its emotional quality. The three mirrors slowly cleanse themselves. The reflection of oneself becomes softer, fairer. The image of the world becomes fuller, more voluminous. The vision of the future opens to possibilities. And when this happens, something fundamental changes in how we live each day. Thought diary, a map of the inner world. There's an ancient practice, simple as breathing and deep as the ocean, the practice of writing. When you transfer a thought from your head to paper, something magical happens. It ceases to be a part of you and becomes an object you can examine from the outside. It's like pulling a fish out of the water to see its shape, color, and size. In cognitive behavioral therapy, this tool is called a thought journal. But it's more than just a record of the day's events. It's a structured exploration of the connections between what happens, what we think about it, and how it influences our feelings and actions. It's a map of the internal territory we usually navigate blindly, on autopilot. Imagine it's evening. The day is over. You've settled into a quiet corner where no one will disturb you. Perhaps there's a cup of herbal tea nearby, steaming gently. Or a candle, its flame flickering slowly in the still air. You pick up a notebook. Not just any notebook, but something special, pleasant to the touch. A place where you'll return every evening for this quiet ritual of self-discovery. A thought journal typically consists of several columns. Each column is a window into a specific aspect of your experience. First column, situation. Here you write down what happened, just the facts, no interpretations. Not horrible meeting with the boss, but meeting with the boss where he pointed out 3 errors in the report. Not my friend is ignoring me, but my friend hasn't responded to my message during the day. This is harder than it seems. We're so used to mixing facts and interpretations that they've become one. But this distinction is critically important because interpretation is what we'll be working with in the following columns. And to do that, we first need to isolate it, separate it from the bare reality of the event. Column 2, automatic thoughts. And here you write down what flashed through your mind when this situation occurred. Those very actors we talked about. They appeared instantly, said their lines, and provoked an emotional reaction. Maybe it was, I never do anything right, or he thinks I'm incompetent, or I'm not important to my friend. Write down these thoughts exactly as they come. Don't edit them or make them more rational. Let them be on paper in their original, often irrational form. This is important because only by seeing a thought for what it is can we begin to work with it. Third column, emotions. What did you feel? Name the emotion as precisely as possible. Not just bad, but shame or anxiety or sadness. Each emotion has its own nuance, its own texture. Shame is not the same as guilt. Anxiety is different from fear. The more precisely you can name the feeling, the better you understand yourself. And one more thing, rate the intensity of this emotion on a scale from 0 to 100. This makes the experience more concrete, less all-encompassing. Anxiety at 85% is no longer a formless cloud of dread, but a measurable state that can change.
Column 4, evidence in favor. Now comes the most interesting part, the research. You take an automatic thought and ask, what facts support this thought? Not feelings, not interpretations, but concrete, observable facts. If the thought was, I never do anything right, what evidence supports that? Perhaps, there really were 3 errors in the report. I forgot about a meeting last week. Write down honestly everything that comes to mind. This isn't about proving the thought wrong, it's about seeing the whole picture. Column 5, evidence against. Now, and this usually takes effort, look for facts that contradict this thought. What speaks against the statement, I never do anything right? It could be, most of the report was accurate. I successfully completed a project last month. A colleague praised my work this week. These facts are always there, but But when we're in an emotional state, when the cognitive filtering bias is activated, we don't notice them. A thought journal forces us to slow down and actively seek them out.
Often, simply by doing this exercise, people begin to feel their emotional intensity diminish because the picture becomes more balanced. Thought loses its absolute power. Column 6. Alternative thought. Based on your analysis of the evidence, you create a new, more balanced thought. Not a positive affirmation that sounds implausible, but a realistic interpretation that takes all the facts into account. Instead of, "I never do anything right," it could be, "I made a few mistakes in this report, and that's an area I need to work on. That said, I have many successful projects under my belt. Mistakes are part of learning, not evidence of my overall incompetence." Do you feel the difference? The second version is honest. It acknowledges mistakes. But it's also fair. It sees the context, the history, the opportunities for growth. It doesn't destroy its entire self-image over a single failure.
Column 7. Revaluing emotions. Now, with this new thought, return to your emotions. What do you feel now? And what is the intensity on the same scale from 0 to 100? People often find that anxiety has dropped from 85% to 40%, or shame from 90% to 50%. The emotion hasn't disappeared completely, and that's normal. But it has become more manageable, less all-consuming. There's room for other feelings, for perspective, for the next step. This process isn't a quick fix. It's a practice, a ritual. At first, filling out a journal can take 20-30 minutes. Your thoughts can wander. It's hard to separate facts from interpretations. It's hard to find evidence against your established beliefs. This is normal. You're learning a new language, the language of observing your own thinking. But over time, it becomes more natural. You begin to catch automatic thoughts as they arise, even without writing them down. The inner observer becomes stronger. And gradually, imperceptibly, your thought patterns begin to change.
Behavioral experiments. Action as medicine. Up until this point, we've been talking primarily about thoughts, how to observe them, analyze them, and reformulate them. But cognitive behavioral therapy isn't called that for nothing. The behavioral component is just as important as the cognitive component, because thoughts and actions are intertwined in a never-ending dance of mutual influence. Our thoughts influence our behavior. If you think, "I'm definitely going to fail this presentation," you might avoid preparation, speak with uncertainty, or find a way to avoid it altogether. Then your behavior feeds back into your thoughts. A bad presentation, or avoiding it, confirms the original thought. "See, I knew I'd fail." The cycle continues. But this cycle can be broken, and often the most effective way is to start with behavior, because sometimes it's easier to change an action than to directly change a thought. And when we change an action, the experience we gain naturally influences our thoughts. Graduated exposure. Imagine a person who is afraid of dogs. Every time they see one, they cross the street. This avoidance behavior brings immediate relief. The anxiety subsides. But in the long run, it intensifies the fear, because avoidance confirms the thought, "Dogs are dangerous, and I can't cope with this fear." Cognitive behavioral therapy offers a different approach, very slow, very gradual, with full respect for the fear. It's called graded exposure. You create a ladder of small steps, each a little bit difficult, but not overwhelming. Step 1. Look at photos of dogs in safe environments. Notice the anxiety, allow it to rise, and then, by staying with this discomfort, discover that it doesn't grow indefinitely. Anxiety has a peak, after which it naturally begins to decline. This is a fundamental discovery. Emotions are waves. They rise and fall. Step 2. Watch videos of dogs. Step 3. See the dog through a window, from a distance. Step 4. Walk along the same side of the street with the dog on a leash, but 10 meters away. Every step is an experiment. You test your predictions. If I see a dog, my anxiety will become unbearable. I will lose control. The dog will definitely attack.
Gradually, experience shows that these predictions are inaccurate. Anxiety is manageable. You remain in control. Most dogs are not aggressive. This works not only with fears, it works with many areas where our thoughts limit our actions. Activation in depression. Depression is often accompanied by a loss of motivation and energy. People think, "I'm too tired to do anything," or "Nothing will bring me pleasure anyway, so why try?" Following these thoughts, they stay in bed, avoid social contact, and give up activities that once brought them joy. But here's the paradox of depression. Inaction makes it worse. The less you do, the worse you feel. The more convinced you become that nothing will help. The cycle becomes ever tighter. Behavioral activation is a technique that gently, very gently, invites you to do something, even when you don't feel like it. Not big things, small actions. Get up and take a shower. Go for a 5-minute walk. Call a friend. Do one simple task.
The key here is to start small. Don't share your deepest trauma with a stranger. Instead, say to a friend, "You know, I'm going through a tough time right now." A small step, a managed risk, a visible result. Over time, experiment after experiment, experience after experience, new data accumulates, data that contradicts old beliefs. And very slowly, almost imperceptibly, but steadily, beliefs begin to change. Not because you forced yourself to believe something new, but because reality, empirically verified, showed something different. Action becomes medicine, not in the sense of suppressing symptoms, but in the sense of healing through new experiences, through proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought, that the world contains more possibilities than you expected, that the future can be different.
Core beliefs, the roots of the tree. If automatic thoughts are the leaves on the tree of our psyche, then deep-seated beliefs are the root system, invisible, hidden underground, but nourishing everything that grows above. These beliefs have been formed over years, often in childhood, from numerous small and large experiences. They have become so habitual, so obvious, that we stop noticing them. They have simply become the lens through which we view the world. A core belief isn't just a thought. It's a fundamental assumption about yourself, about other people, about how the world works. It's often formulated as an absolute statement. I'm unworthy of love. The world is dangerous. People can't be trusted. If I show my true self, I'll be rejected. These beliefs didn't arise out of nowhere. Perhaps something happened in childhood that created the basis for such a belief. Criticism, rejection, trauma, or even simply a family atmosphere where certain things were never said, certain emotions never expressed. A child, with their limited understanding of the world, draws conclusions. They formulate rules. They create a map of reality that helps them survive in their particular circumstances.
The problem is that this map, created by a child in a specific situation, often stays with us into adulthood, even when circumstances have changed radically, even when it no longer helps but limits. We continue to use the outdated map because it's the only one we know. Root detection. The first step in working with deep-seated beliefs is to identify them. They hide beneath automatic thoughts. When you start keeping a thought journal, after a while you may notice a pattern. The same themes recur in different situations. Perhaps the idea, "I'm not good enough," or "people will let me down," surfaces in a variety of contexts. There's a technique called the downward arrow. You take an automatic thought and ask, "What does this mean about me?" The answer begs the next question, "What does this mean?" And so on, going deeper and deeper until you reach the core belief. For example, automatic thought, "I made a mistake on the report." What does that mean about me? I'm not paying enough attention. What does that mean? I'm not as good at my job as I should be. What does that mean? I'm letting people down. What does that mean? I'm not good enough. Core belief discovered. When you reach the root, an emotional response often occurs. Sadness, shame, recognition. This conviction isn't just a thought,
It's something you believe deeply, often without even realizing it.
Understanding the origin. Sometimes it's helpful to understand where a belief comes from, not to blame someone or dwell on the past, but to see that this belief was an understandable response to certain circumstances. It may have even been helpful at the time, but now it may no longer be relevant. A child who was frequently criticized might develop the belief, "I'm not good enough." This belief may have helped them. They tried harder, trying to avoid criticism. In the context of that childhood, it was a survival strategy. But an adult with this belief can sabotage their own successes, turn down opportunities, and overlook their accomplishments. The belief has outlived its usefulness. When you can look at your deepest conviction from this perspective, with an understanding of its origins and its historical function, something amazing emerges: self-compassion. The understanding that you are not broken or defective. You are a person who adapted to your circumstances in the best way possible at that moment.
Gathering evidence against. Working with deep-seated beliefs is similar to working with automatic thoughts, but it requires more time and patience. Because these beliefs have been reinforced over the years through hundreds of confirming experiences, or what were perceived as confirmations, you begin collecting evidence against your belief. It's not a one-time thing, it's a process. A positive data journal where you write down something every day that contradicts your core belief. Belief: I'm unworthy of love. Evidence against: a friend called just to talk. A colleague sincerely thanked me for my help. My partner hugged me this morning. At first, your mind will resist. That doesn't count. He was just being polite. She does this to everyone. But it's important to keep going, to record, to accumulate, to create an alternative database. Formulating a new belief. Over time, based on new evidence, we can begin to formulate an alternative, more balanced core belief. Not one that's opposed to the old one, that would be implausible, but one that's more nuanced. Instead of "I'm not worthy of love," it could become "I, like everyone else, have qualities that make me worthy. Some people choose to be with me, and that says something about the value they see in me. I'm learning to accept that love."
This belief isn't perfect. It doesn't claim you're flawless or that everyone should love you, but it's more realistic, more fair, more open to the experience of love and connection. Practice of a new belief. It's not enough to simply formulate a new belief. You need to practice it, repeat it, seek evidence to support it, act on it, even when the old one still whispers its familiar words. It's like cutting a deep new rut in the ground. The first rains will still flow along the old channels. They're deeper, more familiar. But if you continue to direct water into the new channel, it will gradually deepen, and one day, it may become the main route. Changing deep-seated beliefs isn't a quick process. It can take months, even years. It requires patience, persistence, and a whole lot of self-compassion. There will be days when the old belief resonates louder than ever. That's normal. It's not a failure. It's simply an indicator of how deeply rooted the root is. But every time you choose to notice an old belief, question it, and embrace an alternative, you take a small but significant step. The roots of the old belief weaken. The roots of the new one strengthen. And one day, perhaps without even noticing the moment of transition, you'll find yourself looking at yourself and the world through a different lens. Purer, fairer, more hopeful.
Returning to oneself. So we've been on this journey together, from the theater of everyday thoughts to the deepest roots of beliefs, from becoming aware of how we think to changing how we live. Cognitive behavioral therapy is not magic. It's not a quick fix. It's a practice. The discipline of mindfulness combined with the courage of action. Imagine a gardener tending an ancient garden. He can't change a landscape that took decades to shape overnight, but he can, day after day, with patience and tenderness, prune overgrown branches, plant new seeds, and guide growth in a healthier direction. Over time, the garden changes. Not suddenly, not dramatically,
but slowly, organically, naturally. You are that gardener. Your mind is the garden, and the tools of cognitive behavioral therapy are ways to tend this inner space with wisdom, compassion, and intention. Maybe tomorrow morning when you wake up, the same actors will be back on stage. Maybe familiar cognitive biases will color your perceptions again. That's okay. It doesn't mean you failed or that everything we've discussed is meaningless. It just means you're human, that old patterns are powerful, that change isn't a straight line, but a wave with ebbs and flows.
But now you have something new: awareness, the ability to notice, the knowledge that thought is not fact, the understanding that you can explore your interpretations, test your assumptions, create new possibilities through action. Research shows that cognitive behavioral therapy is effective for a wide range of conditions: depression, anxiety, phobias, panic attacks, social anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and much more. But numbers and statistics don't tell the whole story. This approach works because it respects the fundamental human capacity for change, for learning, for growth. You're not stuck in your current thinking patterns. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new neural connections, continues throughout life. Every time you choose a new thought, a new action, a new reaction, you literally rewire your brain structure. Slowly, neuron by neuron, connection by connection. Practice as a way of life. Cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't end when the course of therapy is over. It's not something you go through and then put aside. It becomes part of how you relate to yourself, your thoughts, and your life. A thought journal becomes not an obligation, but an opportunity, a moment at the end of the day when you sit down with yourself, as if you were a dear friend, and ask, "How was your day? What did you notice? How did you feel?" It becomes a self-care ritual, as important as brushing your teeth or getting a good night's sleep. Observing your thoughts becomes a background process, occurring naturally throughout the day. It's not obsessive, not tiring, just a gentle, conscious presence. Noticing what's happening in your inner world, without judgment, with gentle curiosity.
Behavioral experiments become a way to explore life. Instead of automatically avoiding what scares you, you ask, what if I try? What if I test this hypothesis? Life becomes a laboratory where you constantly collect new data about yourself and the world. Self-compassion as a foundation. One theme runs through all of this: self-compassion. Cognitive behavioral therapy isn't about criticizing yourself for wrong thoughts or irrational beliefs. It's about understanding how these thoughts and beliefs arose, what function they were trying to fulfill, and then gently, while respecting their intentions, finding healthier alternatives. When you catch yourself in a cognitive distortion, your reaction shouldn't be, "Well, there I go again, thinking wrong. How stupid I am." This simply creates a new layer of negative thoughts on top of the old ones.
The three mirrors: your self-image, your view of the world, your vision of the future, become clearer. The reflections become more honest, not perfect, but truer. A thought journal lies nearby, ready to receive tomorrow's observations, tomorrow's discoveries. It's more than just a notebook. It's a map of your inner journey, and each page is a testament to your willingness to look honestly, explore openly, and change boldly. Behavioral experiments await you tomorrow. Small opportunities to act not out of fear or habit, but from conscious choice. A chance to gather new data about what you're capable of, who you are, and what's possible. And deep down, in the root system of your psyche, old beliefs slowly give way to new ones. Not overnight, not without resistance, but steadily, patiently, with each day of compassionate practice. Last words before bed. And now, as our conversation comes to an end, allow yourself to simply be. You've come a long way this evening, through landscapes of thought, through forests of beliefs, through valleys of emotions. Let it all slowly settle, like dust after a journey, settling back into its proper place.
You don't have to remember every detail. Some things remain in your consciousness. Some have gone deeper, to places where words become understanding, and understanding becomes change. Your breathing continues its rhythm. Inhale, exhale, slowly, measuredly, like the waves on the shore, which were before you and will be after you, the eternal, calming rhythm of life. Your thoughts keep coming and going, and that's okay. You've learned not to hold on to them, not to fight them. Just watch. The clouds float across the sky. You are the sky. Tomorrow is a new day. There will be new thoughts, new challenges, new opportunities. But you now have tools, not to avoid difficulties. That's impossible and unnecessary. Difficulties teach us, shape us, deepen us. Tools for navigating difficulties with greater awareness, greater self-compassion, greater hope. You are good enough, right now, just as you are, with all your cognitive distortions and core beliefs, with all your fears and hopes. You are a person in the process, not a finished product, but a living, changing, growing being, and that is beautiful.
Cognitive behavioral therapy is not a path to perfection. It is a path to acceptance, to a realistic, balanced, compassionate view of oneself and life, to the ability to live more fully, more consciously, more freely from the tyranny of unexamined thoughts. So let yourself now let go. This day, these thoughts, these words, let them dissolve into silence, into peace, into deep, restorative sleep. The theater of the mind quietly fades away. The actors go backstage. The lights slowly dim, and you are left in a quiet, safe space, just being. Good night.
May your sleep be deep. May your dreams be soft. May your awakening be filled with new hope, new understanding, new willingness to meet life as it is and as it can become.